they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unplugged Unfiltered. And Bob, the customer is always right. I don't care what you say. The reality of it is the customer is right, because without the customer, you don't make money.
The customer is not always right. Their money is always right.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So you're confusing the two there. So
Yeah.
I would say, again, there's a lot of dumbass customers.
Yes.
Okay. And I just, matter of fact, was on a call this morning with a dealer, and they were going through this nightmare that they've got going on, and they're being sued by a customer.
Oh, nice.
And so they got all their documentation, but the customer's a dumbass.
Yeah.
You know, he's a thief.
Yeah.
You know, and he says, well, you know, what do we do? And I said, well, number one, he's going to go blast you on Google reviews. So be prepared for that. But I said, we can deal with that and all that stuff like this. You know, but I said, you know, customers not always right. You've got some stupid ass customers.
Yeah.
Okay. And those are the people that we've talked about before. Those are the people you got to fire.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So this is, I told him, I said, this is one of those, you never come back in my place again. You never do this again. I never want to see you in my place again.
Absolutely.
And do whatever you have to do financially just to be done with it.
Yeah.
So he says, like, well, I hate to lose money on it. You're going to lose money on it.
Yeah.
Okay. I said, you know, so you just got to get rid of it. Then you have customers that you don't want to fire, but they're not right.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. But we still want their money.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing you got to decide. I tell people again, you can't fire everybody.
Yeah.
Right. There's some customers that are just dumb. You know,
Yeah.
this guy I'm talking about, a con artist, a crook, and a thief.
Yeah.
I don't need him. Dumb customers, I can take their money, do the work I need to do, educate them maybe a little bit along the way. I want to keep those customers.
Yeah.
And while they're not right, I got to make them feel like they're important, right? And I got to make them feel good, feel right, because I'm interested in their cash.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
absolutely.
what I'm in business for. I'm not in business to have more and more money. Our customers, I'm in business to have more and more money.
Yeah.
And to do that, I have to have more and more customers who are willing to give it to me.
Yeah.
So
Oh, absolutely.
you can't just blow them off.
Yeah. Well, but I think that we have been programmed. I mean, you always hear that phrase, right? The customer's always right. But the full phrase of that is the customer's always right in matters of taste, right? That's the full phrase. And so, but they leave that part out, right? It's like the customer's always right. They're not.
They're not.
In matters of taste, yes,
sure,
they are.
absolutely. Be you.
Yeah, you be you. I don't really give a shit.
I don't care what you dress, what your pronouns are.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah,
you know, I was telling you coming in. So I love Gary V.
Yeah.
And my problem is this morning I had a 7:00 meeting, and then after I got done with that, I had about 30 minutes for my next one, and I follow Gary V. And so I've been hyped up on Gary V all morning. So I'm like, God, Gary, damn.
Yeah. So
if you don't follow Gary V, you are number one. He's brilliant.
Yes.
So anybody that's listening to this podcast, if you're not following Gary V, you are doing yourself a disservice.
Oh, absolutely.
Your ears are going to burn just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he has a pretty language that's flowing. I'll just say that.
Yes.
But oh my God, he's so smart. I love him to death. So anyway, so I'm hyped up on Gary V right now.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that means that you're going to hear the F word about every three words.
Gary V would say, no, the customer's not always right.
Yeah. Fuck
F the customer.
That. Yeah. So, but I mean, and it's one of those, and as we're having this conversation, we want to hear from you guys is what are some of your experiences? What is the worst customer that you've ever experienced? Were they right? Were they wrong? How did you respond to them? Drop that in the comment. Hit us, and we would love to hear what are your horror stories with customers, or what are some of the times, and we're going to get to this later in the podcast, where the customer was upset, but they were rightfully upset.
Yeah,
and there's times where it comes out. But with that phrase, with that, the customer is always right. Removing in the matters of taste, the customer is always right. What does that actually cost a team when an owner treats every customer as they're right?
Well, I think from a team perspective, this goes back to culture, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think, again, from a team's perspective, the owner has to explain to the team that, look, you may have a customer that is not right.
Yeah.
Okay. But you can't make them feel stupid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, that's to me, that's the kind of the essence of what you're trying to do here. I have a customer, let's say I've got a parts customer that comes in, and they go like, well, I can get that same part on Amazon, And I said, well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't know. I said, but I do know this is like an OEM part, original equipment manufacturer part, and they're always going to be more expensive, not because they have to be, because they're made of better quality. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I just laugh at people, and I'll go back to the world that I play in, but I have people that deck belts for lawnmowers, the thing that turns the blades around. I have people that come in and they say, well, I can get that same belt on Amazon for half of what you're charging me. And I always tell my parts people, I say, well, that's true, but it's an aftermarket belt. Okay,
Yeah.
It wasn't made by the manufacturer or whoever the manufacturer used to make them. In most cases, that belt that they're going to buy is rated for about 100 hours of use. And the manufacturer's belt's rated for 300 hours use.
Yeah.
And so I said, so you need to explain that to a customer. Okay, it's not that they're right. It's just they don't have all the information.
Yeah.
And I said, so this belt is only going to last a third as much as this belt, but you're paying half as much for it.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know about the math, but the math doesn't work.
Oh, absolutely.
I said, so part of what your job again is to educate.
Yeah.
Because there are some customers that just don't know. They're not stupid. They just, we play in our industries all day long. We know all of the terminologies, all the stuff like this. So I think a part of it again is teaching your team that, look, part of what your job has to do, whether you're in service, parts, or sales, part of what you have to do is to educate.
Yes.
Okay, we charge more, and here's why we charge more. This is more, and here's why this is more. Now, some people are going to go, I don't care. I just want the cheapest thing you got.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then that's fine. That's their decision. And, the customer's always right if they want it. But again, say that's great, but keep in mind, okay, in doing this, you might not be as happy with it at the end, but I just want to share that with you. It's up to you. Customer is always right. A matter of taste.
Yes.
The customer is always right. So
well,
I think that's the piece of it. The team's got to understand that part of what their job is not making a customer feel stupid.
Yeah.
But then educating them, but still letting the customer make the decision.
Yeah. Well, and at the same time, and working in dealerships for 14 years, I mean, there was a lot of times where you would see a customer come in and And I've seen parts people go, well, yeah, you can get it on Amazon, but that's a shitty quality. That's
Right,
this, that's
exactly,
this.
exactly.
And then finally they let the customer talk, and the customer's like, well, I'm planning on selling this on Facebook Marketplace. It needs a new belt, needs a new
Exactly.
battery,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Oh, okay. Well, the cheap battery,
Makes sense.
it's going to be fine, right? Let's increase our profit margins so that way on the customer side.
And I think that's a great point. We use the battery because I tell my dealers, you want to have, for batteries, you want to go to Interstate or whoever you get your batteries from.
Yeah.
And you I want the cheapest battery you have, and I don't plan on selling it.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly.
Okay. But when somebody calls in and said, what's the best price you have on a battery? Then I can say, well, it's $39.
Yeah.
And they go like, that's a great price.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when they come in and they say, well, I need a battery. Well, here's what you got. Well, you told me that you had one for $39. I go, well, yeah, but that's our cheapest battery. How long are you going to keep this piece of equipment?
Yeah.
Oh, hell, I hope to keep it forever. Well, then you don't want the cheapest battery. Or to your point, Brian, if they say, well, I'm hoping to get it sold on Facebook Marketplace this weekend, $39 battery is perfect.
It's perfect. Yeah.
It's a perfect fit for it. So it goes back again, like you say, asking the questions and educating.
Yeah. And again, that's where we can make an assumption of what the customer's wanting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And peg them as wrong. But in reality, they're right again in matters of taste. What are they doing with this? Where are they going? And again, there's different people who have different tastes for different things. And you can't blast a customer for not wanting OEM. They might want an aftermarket. It's just like me saying, okay, hey Bob, we can go get a burger from McDonald's, or we can go get a burger from the Landing.
Five Guys.
Or Five Guys. Yeah. And it's one
there's
of those.
There's a difference in those.
There is.
In price.
There's a difference in price, but there's a difference in quality.
Exactly.
But you have to understand what is that standard of quality that your customer is working in, and then what is the budget that they're working in, because right to them could be right for their pocketbook at that moment. And there's so many different variants of what is right. But what does it do again when an owner comes and says, hey, make sure that you always treat the customer right, and then the owner comes back on the employees when, let's say, they don't back the employees up when the customer is truly wrong.
You kill your culture.
Yeah.
Okay. So you tell me that you want to do this and I did it, and then you come back and then you bitch at me because I did it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's stupid ownership. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're going to build a team, the whole key to this whole thing is you gotta let people know what are your 3 or 4 core values, right? This is what we believe. And I think, again, as I work with a lot of businesses and they go, well, what are your core values? They go like, I don't really know. And I say, well, if you don't know what your core values are, then how do your people know how to make decisions? Because that kind of goes back to that. So again, if you tell your people the customer's always right, I mean, I tell my team, I said, do whatever it takes to make the customer happy, even if you have to refund 100% of their money.
Yeah.
Okay, just make them happy, because at least when they're in a dealer meeting and somebody says something about me, they'll go, well, I did some stuff with Bob and I didn't like it, but he gave me back all my money. You can't be angry at me if I gave you everything back.
Absolutely.
Right. And so I think that's the piece of it, Brian, is if you say this, but then you don't back your team up when they do it, what you're going to do is lose your good people, because they're going to go like, screw it, I can't trust you for anything.
Yeah.
If I can't trust you to back me up on something that you told me to do, then how in the hell am I going to trust you on anything else you tell me? So I think that's a deal killer for your team. If you don't back them up, you got to have their back. And you got to give them the authority to do things. That's the other thing that pisses me off. I go to a store, they're like, oh, I got to get a manager's approval to do this. Why the hell do you need a manager's approval? They're going to come up and look at me and click 3 keys.
Yeah.
I go, why the hell couldn't you do that?
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And again, because I think it takes away that authority. You got to give your people, you got to give your people in a business, all your employees, the authority at whatever level they at to make decisions.
Yes.
And then the whole key is, though, if you say, well, the customer's always right in service or parts or sales or rental in my world, right? Then what does that mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Because again, I think you have to define what right is.
Yeah. Okay.
And our definition of right is stupid's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Being an asshole is not okay.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
So an asshole customer is not always right.
Yeah.
Being stupid is fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I say that because we're all stupid in some things.
Yeah.
I'm stupid in, I don't know, physics. I got a rough idea of quantum physics, but I still don't know a lot about it. So I go back again. Everybody's stupid in some area, but I think again, there's a difference between being stupid. I just don't know.
Yeah.
And some people have a hard time admitting they don't know. And then you just got people that are just jerks and assholes over here. And I'm not going to help them out.
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything I can to dissuade them from ever coming in my business again.
Well, I remember I was up at a dealership up in northern Michigan, and there was a gentleman who brought a snowblower in, and there was no oil in the snowblower. Well,
why would you need oil?
Yeah. Well, and he came in, and the young lady, she had just moved from their hardware side into the service position. And he was just grilling, well, you guys were the last ones to do the service. And so of course we looked it up in the computer. It'd been 2 years since we'd done the service, all of this, and he was just going on and just beating the living shit out of this girl emotionally, right?
Exactly.
And so I stepped in and I said, sir, I said, what is the problem? He goes, well, my engine's all messed up. There's no oil in it. You guys were the last ones. I said, you know what? We can go ahead and make sure we can go ahead and I'll take care of this situation. Where's your truck parked at? And of course he'd already unloaded the snowblower. And he's like, well, it's in the parking lot. Why? I said, because we're going to load this up and you're not going to come back. And then, of course, things go on. He, being such a badass man, being, he calls his wife, who then calls into the store.
Tough guy.
And then the owner of the store comes and he goes, hey, who was so aggressive with this customer? I said, well,
that was me.
I would raise my hand. Me as the consultant. Yeah, I was. Yeah. And he's like, well, his wife's on the phone. I said, let me talk to her. And so I explained the situation and who the service person was and the situation. And about 20 minutes later, his wife and him came in to apologize. And there's no other stores that do service around that area. And I said, well, unfortunately, at this point, we're not going to continue to do service. That is, we're not going to accept that kind of attitude or treating of our people. We're trying to do what we can to make it right. But he thought he was so right. And he thought that, and I will say that the world of big box stores have created this paralysis effect, right? Because you can go in, and I could go into any big box store I bought something from, throw a big enough fit, and they're just going to take it back.
Absolutely.
But you can't do that. And when an owner sees that happening, or for my side, is I saw that happening to an employee, I'm going to step in and say, no, you're not going to do this. We don't have the paralysis effect. We don't need you as that one customer. Go write a nasty review. I'll respond to it and say, hey, I apologize for the experience that you had, but here's our side of the story. We would have loved to work with you. We tried to work with you, but you were using cuss words in our store, yelling at these people.
On this young lady. And in northern Michigan, that would be a no-no.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's somebody's young daughter you're talking to, and they're going to come out and kick you.
And it's not a big town. It's not a big town. So,
not a big town. Yeah, you've probably created a problem for yourself.
But I think that paralysis effect that comes along with, especially in the big box stores and the big corporate, is the customer's always right. That allows customers to go, well, I'm always right. I'm always right. And how do you combat that? How do you teach your people to combat that paralysis effect that all of these customers experience in big box stores when they come to a smaller family-owned business?
Well, I think, again, and I do a workshop about every quarter for dealerships employees on how to de-escalate a situation, because that's what happens there. Like you say, it starts here, and then because maybe the employee doesn't know how to de-escalate it, it continues to go up to a point where they have to call the sheriff's department. I mean, I've had that happen before, where they said, well, we had to call the sheriff. And the thing that most of the people that buy from dealerships don't understand, that the sheriff's department has pretty good relationships with dealerships because they work on their cutoff saws and all
absolutely
their generators and stuff like that. So they got a pretty good relationship with police departments and
fire departments
and sheriff's departments. So if they're going to call, they're going to come out and prove a point to whatever customer you are.
Absolutely.
But I think, again, part of it just understanding how to de-escalate And again, and I always tell my people, I said, what you have to do is you have to get them to move away from where they're at, walk away from the counter. Sir, come back here, ma'am, come back here. Let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
And then grab a piece of paper, a notepad, and say, would you mind if I took some notes?
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I tell people when it comes to de-escalation, you've got to slow everything down.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is everything is speeding up. And so the easiest way to slow something down is to ask the person who is escalated if it's okay if you take notes, because you don't want to miss anything that might be important.
Yeah.
And they all go, sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, well then you're taking notes and you're writing slow, and it starts to de-escalate the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because again, so that's a part of what you have to do there. But I think you have to define between, I'm not going to have any customer abuse my people.
Yeah.
Okay, just as an owner, as a leader, as a manager, that ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's how you're going to do it, you're probably that 5 or 10% of people that are just, everybody knows you're a dick, even in the community. And so if they see your review, they're going to go, yeah, nobody likes him.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be a piece there. But again, taking that stance, and I think again, just letting your people know that if it gets to a point, so if I'm a manager, say a parts manager, service manager, whatever, and it's escalating, you need to let your people know that they need to say, hey, let me get my manager.
Yeah.
Let me bring this in. And then I'll make a decision as a manager or as an owner if you're a customer I want to keep. The employee never has the authority to fire a customer.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a management or ownership decision. And we get to the point there where it's out of control, then the employee needs to bring in a manager or an owner, because those are really the only two people that have the authority to fire somebody.
Or the consultant.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy to do that.
I was happy.
I always tell people, let me be your antichrist.
Yeah.
I can do that. That's not a problem at all. So, so I think that's a piece of it, but you got to always have the back of your employees.
Yeah.
I mean, you're building a culture, you're building the team, if it's, I just finished watching again, the Band of Brothers. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's like phenomenal, but these guys kind of have a culture, a team. They built this band of guys that went through World War II. And, but there was a culture there, and they would do anything for each other, and they knew the other one would do anything for them. And so they were willing to run into shit I wouldn't run into.
Yeah, absolutely.
And fire away. So I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think my de-escalation tactic is a little different than your de-escalation tactic.
Does yours involve a handgun?
Close.
A weapon.
My goal, my thing is find your biggest technician.
There you go.
To be like, hey, let me get you with HR.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, Billy, bring your pipe wrench up here.
Bubba, I need you to come up front real quick with your wrench.
This is our HR. He's 6'6", has an attitude, and is ready to receive your comments.
There you go, please.
So
please.
But anyway, I mean, but let's be fair. I mean, so we've talked about, firing customers, and customers can be such a pain in the ass sometimes. But what happens when the customer is actually right? So the customer's frustrated. We've actually done something to mess up. How does an owner respond? How do they help assess or work through the situation with their employees when the customer is actually right?
Well, at that point, hopefully the owners got involved with the conversation.
Yeah.
And again, because it doesn't mean the customer's wrong. I mean, you could have any number of situations come up. So you get involved with it and having those conversations and say, well, tell me more about the situation. Well, this is what I told them, and this is what they did. Okay, well, we didn't communicate with you clearly.
Yeah.
That's on us.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything at that point, now I'm going to take responsibility for. So you are right. We are wrong. We did this wrong. We handled this in the wrong way. I want to make this right.
Yeah.
And so, but I want to do that in front of my employees so they see, okay, this is how I would do this.
Yeah.
Ask the questions, find out. And damn, in business, sometimes we get it wrong. I mean, it's just a part of it, but acknowledge quickly that, hey, you know what, this is on us.
Yeah.
You're right. You've been treated wrong here. This should have never happened. I personally am going to take care of this.
Yeah.
Right. You are somebody that we want to continue to have a good relationship with. And I need to take care of this for you. We love what you do for us. We love you as a customer. We did it wrong. I apologize. This is on me. It's not on my team.
Yeah.
Right. This is on me. I'm going to take care of you there. But I would do that. I mean, I think it's humble yourself in front of your employees with a customer like that. And they learn, oh, okay, this is how I would do that. Don't bring them into your office and do it. You actually want to, showcase it.
Yeah.
And let people see, because you're trying to teach your people how to handle those kind of situations.
Absolutely.
But if you're wrong, then just freaking admit you're wrong.
Yeah.
Fix it. Do what, I don't care what it costs you, right? It's just a part of doing business. Fix it, make the customer right, and then ask the customer, would you leave an honest review on Google?
Yeah.
Right. If you still feel unhappy, then let me keep working on this because I want to make you 100% happy with this. And if you're 100% happy on it, leave a review that says, hey, they screwed up, but they admitted it and they fixed it. And I'll always keep going back. I mean, encourage them to do those kind of things.
Yeah. Well, and we see it a lot in the dealership world, especially like in service, right? Service, we can be wrong, and not necessarily that we're wrong, but part failures are not an uncommon thing. I could fix the situation and I could put a brand new deck belt, to our example, on, and something happens. There's a chance that a stick got brought up in there.
Sure.
And it's like, well, I just put a deck belt on last week and it broke. You know what? We have seen part failures. At what point, let's use the dealership for an example, whether it's maybe the customer got the wrong part or we had a part failure in the service. At what point do you empower your people, or does each employee have a different level of I don't want to say admitting that they're wrong, but admitting that they're wrong and being able to resolve the situation before having to move up? At what levels do you build that, and how do you know your employee is ready to handle a situation where I know we're wrong? Because I've seen it on the opposite side where there has been theft issues because something happened and we gave them a new or we gave them a.
Well, I think again, you have to grow that with the confidence you have in your employees. So again, as a manager, you're always kind of growing your employees up to another level of confidence, another level of trust. You kind of have 3 levels of employees on the positive side and 3 levels of employees on the negative side. I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
But again, so what I'm looking at is giving them authority to up to $50 or up to $100. You can make this decision.
Yeah.
After that, I want you to pull in either myself or a manager, and then you'll get to a point where you say, hey, you know what? You can go up to $200 on a decision.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of testing what to do. I think the mistake again that a lot of businesses make is they don't understand the lifetime value of a customer. And so as I work with dealerships, I always say, what's a customer worth? They go, I don't know what they're worth. And I go, well, let's go take 20 customers out of your database. And I want 20 customers that have been doing business with you for the last, say, 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Off and on or whatever, just random. We're going to add it all together, divide it by 10, and that's going to give us our average customer lifetime value. So let's say I'm at a dealership and the average customer lifetime value over the life of a customer, and we're going to define 10 years as the potential life. But over a 10-year period of time, this customer will spend $30,000 with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever that number happens to be. And I would challenge everybody on here. You need to know what the lifetime value of a customer is. So now we sit here and say, okay, well, this customer, Bob, came in.
Yeah.
Okay. And Bob is asking me to do something, that's going to cost me $200 to do. And it's not really our fault. Okay. But Bob wants me to do this and he expects me to give this up. And I would sit there and go like, well, shit, I can lose Bob.
Yeah.
A guy that's going to generate me $30,000 over the next 10 years for $200, or I can just simply take care of the $200.
Yeah.
Apologize and say, you know what, Bob, this is really nobody's fault. This shit just happens. The belt just broke.
Yeah.
Because the deck belt could be about $200, right? It just broke. We don't know why it broke, but don't worry about it. We're going to give you a new one, put it on, and we'll keep everything going here.
Absolutely.
And people go like, oh my God, you gave away $200. No, I saved $30,000.
Absolutely.
I saved a $30,000 piece of business for $200 freaking dollars.
Yeah.
And I think that's the mistake that I see people make. They go like, well, hell, it's $200. It's $500. They go, well, what the hell is the value of the customer? Well, I don't know. Well, I guarantee it's going to be more than $500.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the other piece. As an owner, you have to sit there and say, okay, well, what's the value of this? And is it worth $500 to save a $30,000 customer?
Yeah.
And I'd say, hell yes, all day long. I mean, what the money you spend on marketing to try to get another one of those is going to be more than $500.
Well,
so I think that's the piece you got to look at.
And I think it's really interesting because one of the things that I've seen is when you do something like that, you take a $30,000 customer, and most of the times for that $500, they actually turn into a $40,000 or $50,000 over the lifetime customer.
Absolutely.
Because they go, I was taken care of. I can trust them. When I bring something in for service, that takes them from call me with an estimate to, hey, I trust you guys, just fix it.
Yeah.
And you actually see the value of the
Oh, absolutely.
customer
Absolutely.
increase.
Yeah.
So not only are you saving 30, but you have the potential to make an additional 10, 20, $30,000 just because you treated them right. I mean, when I had my lawn care business, I remember doing stuff with Scott's there in Smithville. It's no longer Scott's, but I used to go up there and they would all just, hey, whatever you need, we got you. We'll take care of it. Oh, your mower's down. When I first started, just one mower, it was down.
Right.
Hey, here's a loaner.
Yeah.
This.
Yeah.
And then I got to the point where I would just take it up there and they go, well, you know, do you want us to call it? Just fix it. I don't care. and I ended up buying so much more stuff from them just because I built a relationship with them. I knew they were going to take care of me no matter what. And their lifetime value of me rose exponentially because of one, you know, fix that they did.
And they also understood you as a customer because they're going like, okay, this is a landscaper that's got a small landscaping company. He doesn't have 50 trucks with 800 mowers on it. And this is a mower for him to make money. This mower has to continue to go.
Yeah.
So they had a real appreciation of that. But again, I think your point's correct, which I hate to say that. I just
that's good.
So it's like, oh my God.
Yes.
Gary V, you're in my brain right now. I would say again that doing a fix like that probably does extend the life of a customer from a 10-year to maybe a 15-year or things like that. Because that's the other thing I think you have to look at. You know, how do we take a customer that we plan on keeping for 10 years and move them to 15?
Yeah.
You know, those are things like that. But again, it's the short-sightedness, I think, sometimes with customers that I tell dealers, you know, if I give up, let's say $500, but I keep you as a customer, I will have many chances over the next 10 years to get my $500 back.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you leave and never come back, right, then I'll never have a chance to recoup that.
Yeah.
Right. So I always tell people again, as long as they're your customer, I will get the $500 back. It may take me 3 years to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Over and above what you would normally spend, I will get my $500.
Well, and it makes me think of Warren Buffett comes to mind on this. Is, you know, when people go, well, how do you feel when you lose money in the stock market? Well, his thing was, well, I don't lose any money in the stock market until I sell my stock, right? The longer you hold it, you might lose value here in this stock this moment. But as long as you maintain it, you're not actually losing that value. You're able to build and grow on that.
Yeah. Until you sell it, you didn't lose anything.
Absolutely.
You know, and again, I think a lot of it goes back to making sure that you are attracting the right customers.
Yeah.
You know, that's a whole other piece where in the beginning, when you start a business, anybody that has a pulse and can fog a mirror is a customer.
Absolutely.
I'm just telling you that. I don't care. Say, don't be picky on your new customers when you're starting a business. Dear God, you have cash. Yes, I can help you out. Okay, I'll do whatever it takes to do it. I think, again, what you have to do as your business is maturing, right, you have to start really making sure that your marketing is attracting the type of customers that you want to attract.
Yeah.
You know, so again, in the business, whatever business you happen to be into, but if you say, as I'm going to go back to dealerships, because this is the world that I understand. So if I'm a dealer, right, and I say, okay, I want to get more margin on my equipment than maybe some of the other dealers do.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I'm going to put myself in create a situation where I'm looking for customers who are willing to pay a little bit more for extra value.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not looking for the cheapest thing now, because there's always somebody out there that's going to be cheaper. So I think that's the other thing. Then you have to look and say, okay, as I look at my customer, you know, what am I trying to attract? Just somebody who wants to buy something. Well, in the beginning, absolutely.
Yes.
You don't care. Okay. And you'll do whatever it takes to get that customer, because that's how you start your business. But then you have to start maturing in your business thought process and say, okay, well, what do I really want? I want a customer who is willing to pay more to do business with me, because this then becomes my value proposition. Because if you do business with me, these are all the cool perks that you get.
Yeah.
Okay, I think, again, a lot of the challenges that I have when I work with dealers, they say, well, you know, it's just such a competitive marketplace. And I go, well, it is. I said, but why should I do business with you? Why shouldn't I go someplace else and save $200? Well, because we got great people and we're happy all the time. Well, no, you're not. And I know your people and not all of them are great. Right. I said, that's not a value proposition for a customer. What are you going to do for me? We always talk about the Disney Fast Pass.
Yeah.
What's your Disney Fast Pass?
Yeah.
Right. If I do this, what else do I get because I'm paying you a little bit of extra money here? And again, then you have to go back and say, okay, well, what's that customer look like?
Yeah.
You know, if you got people out there and you're saying, hey, I want to get customers that really appreciate value. Okay, well, we know Gen Xers tend to be a little bit more price sensitive than boomers. Millennials tend to be a little bit more like boomers. Millennials tend to be a little bit more, they're willing to pay a little bit more for the value that we have there. So you have to kind of look at those things and say, okay, am I actually attracting the right type of customers? Because I think that's the next stage of your business, is defining what the right customer is.
Absolutely. Well, and from that point, I want to go to the flip side because we've been talking about dealers and customers, but there's another relationship in this room that nobody talks about honestly. I mean, dealers are the fingers. So we're talking about the dealership side. That's the world that you and I've really played in for forever. But dealers are the fingers of the manufacturers, and they represent the brand. They sell the product, they service the customer. Without the dealer network, the manufacturers do not exist in the market, which makes the dealer the manufacturer's customer. And that raises the question that I want to ask you, Bob, is what manufacturers tell the dealers that the customer is always right. So always the customer is always right. Do manufacturers actually believe that when the dealer is the customer?
No.
So
I go back in. So manufacturers in a kind of an interesting role, because we work both manufacturers and we work with dealers. And the challenge that a manufacturer has is they have a team of people that they're finance people that manufacturers manufacture and build shit.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they're building stuff, and their job is to get the dealers to sell the shit that they're building, whatever that happens to be, and the challenge, the disconnect many times in manufacturers, is we have a manufacturing group that has no connection at all with the dealer base.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't really know. They just say, this is what we're building. This is what we need you to sell. And so the dealer says, well, I can't really sell that. Well, you don't understand. This is what we're building. Okay. And you need to sell it. You need to at least take some of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is where, the dealer's going to take it because they have to.
Yeah.
Okay. Most of the dealerships we work with, they have a brand that they've been repping for however years. They're not going to drop that.
Yeah.
They're going to just suck it up. But again, the manufacturer in most cases directs the dealer what to do. They tell their customer, this is how it's going to be. This is what you're going to do. And I understand that, because in a dealer channel, right, you might have, we've got like one distributor that we work with, that you work with on the Triton side. They got almost 2,000 dealers.
Yeah.
Okay. They're huge dealer channel they have to do there. And so whatever decision they make for dealer one, they have to make that for the other 2,000 too. Right. Because that's just that's just how it works. So I get it on the manufacturer side. Manufacturers make stuff. I think that's what I always tell my dealers. They build stuff.
Yeah.
And shame on them, because they didn't come in and ask you for your opinion.
I know they didn't.
Okay. But I will say, there was a company that's in New Holland, Pennsylvania, that years ago brought customers in and engineers in and dealers in, and they built a tractor.
Yeah.
Based upon all of that, and marketing people in, and it was called the Genesis tractor. And it was the most incredible tractor, and it just sold and sold and sold.
Yeah.
Because they brought everybody together. The dealers were excited, marketing was excited, engineering was excited.
Yeah.
Everybody was excited with it. So I think that's the challenge. Again, it kind of goes back to what you were talking about before, where it's so important that manufacturers ask dealers questions.
Yeah.
Now, all the manufacturers will go, well, gosh, Bob, we have a dealer advisory council.
Yeah.
I know that, but you don't actually listen to them. Okay. It's more of a courtesy.
Yeah.
Okay. And it doesn't mean you don't listen to everything they say, but again, it's difficult, because the people that are on the sales side of manufacturing don't have a lot of control over what manufacturing is actually building.
Yes.
Because manufacturers, they just build shit. I always tell people, again, that's what their goal is. Their goal is to build stuff.
Yeah.
And then they build it, and then they push it out to their channel and say, okay, you need to sell this stuff. So I think, again, it's I worked with a manufacturer years ago, and they phenomenal manufacturer. They still exist today. The guy that I worked with retired, but his whole attitude was, our dealer is our customer. And if we treat our customer really well, they will treat their customer really well.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
And so, and the dealers, all of our dealers, when it came to rating manufacturers, these guys were always, I mean, they were near godlike.
Yeah.
Dealers loved them.
Yeah.
Because they did what they said, and they treated their dealer like a customer.
Yeah.
And then their customers were treated by their dealers like they were treated there. They then made a change, and this gentleman retired, and then they made a change, and they said, what we really are, we're your partner.
Yeah.
Okay. I always tell dealers, when the manufacturer says you're a partner, your idea of a partnership is not exactly what their idea of a partnership is. So, and I get it from manufacturers. Manufacturers have, like I say, they've got a manufacturing group. That's what they do. And they've got hundreds of millions of dollars built in equipment to manufacture stuff. And on the sales side of it, the marketing side, they've got to get dealers to, I know you don't want this, but I got to have you take it. You know, and so it's a tough battle. Manufacturers have a tough battle because it's just, again, manufacturers spend hundreds of millions of dollars to build stuff that's got to be sold to somebody.
Yeah. Well, and you talked about that manufacturing group that really came in and partnered with their dealers, and they took care of their dealers, and they stood behind them, whether it was a warranty claim, just get it paid, get it taken care of. We're going to fix it. A part failure, we'll look into it. We're going to make sure that this is taken care of for your customers, because that goes back again to when you're an owner of a dealership and the manufacturer backs you up in that way. It's the same way as if an owner backs up an employee.
Absolutely.
You know, when you see an employee getting beat down and the owner steps in and says, hey, we're not going to do that here, or hey, let me just take care of this, we're going to do that. When you have a manufacturer step up like that, again, that's a situation that people see every single day, whether it's in the McDonald's drive-through line, whether it's at Walmart, whether it's at any of the big box stores, right? It's the manager comes in and says, I'm going to take care of that. And when the manufacturer does that, they're becoming what we would consider a very good manager.
Absolutely. And I go back again. So, you know, you got a good point there, but I mean, I've got dealers out there that have problem equipment that's brand new equipment from a manufacturer. And the manufacturer says, well, before you can do anything, you've got to go through all this diagnostic and stuff. They go, well, you're going to pay for that? Well, no, we're not going to pay for that. You got to do it. And it's like, okay, well, that's not very fair. You know, and it gets to a point where they say, well, even their technicians, their technical people can't figure it out. So now we're 40 or 50 hours into something and nobody knows what it is. This is where the manufacturer, number one, should step in and say, hey, don't worry about it. We got you covered on that. Okay. Or just take the shit back. We'll send you a new one.
Absolutely.
Okay. We'll work out the deal with the floor plan company on how to make this work. Because I think, again, that's what a dealer would do to a customer. If you bought something from me and it was terrible or whatever, I'm going to figure out a way to take it back. And I think that's where manufacturers sometimes fall off a little bit, because they say all the right things, but when it comes to actually transitioning cash back out, okay, it's your problem. That's kind of where the whole thing breaks down a little bit. And I get it. Like I say, I understand manufacturing is a very complex thing, and there's a lot to do with it. But I do believe, the same way that this gentleman I worked with years ago in this company, if every manufacturer would say, our dealers are not our partners, our dealers are our customers. And just like a customer listens to a dealer listens to their customers, that's the same thing we have to do here. And the other thing that I tell manufacturers is, most manufacturers create policies to keep from getting screwed by dealers. And I tell my manufacturers I work with, there's only like 3 people out there that are screwing you. Yet you built all your policies to penalize every other dealer that works with you. Just get rid of the 3 dealers that are screwing you. Right. Absolutely. Shut them down, close them down, buy them out, sell them out, get rid of those people. It's kind of like employee handbooks. You know, we create employee handbooks in dealerships to deal with the one stupid ass employee. You know, now you got a handbook that's got 87 pages in it. Why don't you just fire the dumbass employee? Be on and have, 3 pages. This is when you get paid. This is when your vacation is. You know, and
absolutely. It's like the warning labels that are on things. You know what? There's a reason why the Darwin Awards exist. And then sometimes natural selection is okay.
On the side of a can of oil that you put in the engine, this is not fit for human consumption. No shit.
No shit.
If you're that stupid, please just drink it.
We don't need those.
We do not. We don't need
those genetics to continue.
That is something we need to stop. That DNA right there.
So when a manufacturer does not come in and support the dealers the way that we encourage them to, what does that truly cost a manufacturer?
Well, number one, when they have their national dealer meetings, they hear about it. Okay. I've been in enough of those before, like, oh shit, we got a food fight going on here. So again, but then they talk. you know, and they have less enthusiasm for the line, less enthusiasm for the product. Now they're going to sell it because most of them have to, because that's a part of their business.
Yeah.
But again, they lose that enthusiasm, that excitement, that passion that they had when they started. I always tell all of my manufacturers, every dealer that you brought on was excited about your product.
Yeah.
Okay, what happened? Well, I don't know what happened. Well, what happened is that there's things that you did that made them unexcited about you.
Yeah.
They still like your product. They just don't like you anymore, you know? And so you got to fix that, you know?
Yeah.
How do we get them re-excited about it? And it could be because you had a bad account manager. I can't tell you how many dealers I work with that I'm going like, my God, why does this manufacturer keep this person as an account manager? Because they're killing these accounts.
Yeah.
You know? They like the product. They just hate the person that they have to deal with because, you know, they're lazy, stupid, moronic, or whatever like that. So again, I think that's the piece of it. They have to understand that it does get through not only the dealer channel. We hear it. I know, you know, companies out there, we have dealers all the time saying, hey, what do you think about this brand? Or what do you think about this brand? And it's unfortunate today, but many times I'm going like, oh my God, they're a dumpster fire. That brand is a dumpster fire. Stay away from that. Right.
Yeah.
And there's about 3 out there that I used to recommend all the time that right now are dumpster fires. I would never tell a dealer to take their brand on.
Yeah.
You know, and I say, here's a couple of dealers, call them and ask them what they think.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm looking at it from a dealer perspective too, and going like, okay, if you're asking me for advice on bringing on a line that's going to tie up $1 million a year floor plan.
Yeah.
Right. You got to be with somebody that ain't a freaking dumpster fire.
Absolutely. Well, and we talked about having manufacturers having these crisis response teams, and we're seeing more and more manufacturers have dealer success kind of groups, right? Someone who is focused on dealer development and growing those. But I think that they need to take it one step further, because just like you were saying, you know, you hear it all day, every day from dealers. When I was in the dealership world, I heard it, saw it, you know, all of this. And I would have customers call and go, hey, we're thinking about taking on this line. What do you think? I said, the line's great. The company's great. Do you know who your rep would be? And they go, oh, well, this person. I'm like, don't do it.
This is not
don't do it. You know?
Yeah.
But if you had someone or a group of 2 or 3 people who truly traveled around, because a lot of manufacturers, they go, well, what are you hearing? I'm like, well, I'm not hearing great things. They're like, well, we send out a survey once a quarter and it's 3 questions and everybody seems to be on average, you know, it's like, well,
we're 2
since,
out of a score of 1 to 3.
Yeah, and it's one of those, what would it cost you, say, as a manufacturer? Maybe it costs you $150,000, $200,000 a year to have a person go around to your dealerships every week, be at a different dealership. That would be the same equivalent of us giving away a $500 part.
Exactly.
Right? And what does that create, where you have someone from corporate who's not trying to sell you anything coming in saying, hey, how's it going? What can we truly do better? Get their notebook out, right?
Yes,
Slow
absolutely.
it down, because these guys are frustrated. They can't get their parts. They can't get their whole goods. They can't get warranty claims. And if they had someone who they truly, that would take, and the distributor that we talked to, they're incredible at that. They listen to their dealers.
Yes.
And I've never met a dealer who's
well, and they've got great salespeople. I mean, the
absolutely.
owner of the distributorship, great salespeople.
Absolutely.
You know, and if they're not great, Chris is not going to keep them around.
Yeah.
So they're awesome. But I think that's a great idea. You know, I mean, why not? The challenge again is so a manufacturer brings in somebody that's kind of a lower level person.
Yeah.
Then they're not going to get any. They're not going to get any audience with the president or the CFO or whatever like this. It's got to be somebody that's got some wheelbase, I guess, for lack of a better word, that's got the attention of the top people, so that when they send a report and say, this is what we're finding happening in the field, they actually take that seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be like, you know, if you're looking at your live surveys, not a survey that somebody says, hey, Mary, fill this shit out for me. I don't have time. But somebody that comes in and spends, you know, an hour or so just sitting down to the owner, talking about, you know, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What can we do better? Talking to the service manager, talking to the parts manager, and then doing that. And like, say if they did, you know, a couple of dealerships a day or whatever, I mean, it would be phenomenal, the feedback you would get.
Absolutely.
And then if as a manufacturer, it'd be no different if you did focus groups for your customers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the same thing. But as a manufacturer, then saying, okay, well, this is real shit.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing stupid stuff from my salespeople.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the manufacturer salespeople are bitching about stuff because they're just lazy.
Yeah.
They go, we got to do better on pricing, whatever. They just say shit. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not all of them, because there's some really good ones out there. But again, this is somebody that you got to trust. You got to have faith in, that says, hey, they're bringing back good information.
Yeah.
And then how are we going to act upon this information?
Absolutely.
So I think it's a great idea.
Well, and it's really cool to see those manufacturers that do step up. I mean, I was dealing with a manufacturer, I had a lot of conversations with them, and I was actually at a dealership up in Vermont, and the CEO of the global side of the company flew into the dealership in Vermont to meet with one of their top performing dealers and say, what's going on? What do you like? I mean, this is someone who their time is very, very valuable. And they flew overseas. I mean,
they're in a far away Eastern land.
Yes.
I'll just put it that way.
And I mean, they flew hours and hours and hours to come and meet specifically with that owner and say, what are we doing? At that point, it doesn't have to go up the chain. He goes,
he is the chain.
And he had all these people around him, and he goes, okay, well, this is what he said was wrong. Fix it.
Yeah.
Right. Get it done. That then gives that specific dealer so much hope. And then he goes and raves, and now they're everywhere. Now. That manufacturer,
they're growing
everywhere.
They're one I recommend. So I go back in partially because of that, because when the CEO came over that headed up this whole massive,
I mean, it's like a couple of years ago, it was an $88 billion
so
a year company.
It's a big manufacturer. But when he tells the people below him, fix this, take care of this, do
Absolutely.
that, shit gets done.
Absolutely.
Right? So he'd be kind of an expensive one to have go out and do surveys.
He would.
But he went to his top dealer, and he went to a dealer that we work with that is not going to bullshit him.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's a good dealership. He does it, but there's things that he needed to do. So I just think it's important, if the customers always are right from the manufacturer standpoint to the dealer, then the manufacturers have to look at their dealers. Not all your dealers are going to be telling you the truth.
Yeah.
Some of them are just jerks. Okay. And I don't even have to tell you, you already know who they are. Right. But it's this big group, this 85, let's say 15% of your dealers out there are just assholes and jerks.
Yeah.
And that doesn't matter what you tell them to do. They're always going to fight you on everything. You don't spend your money on those people. The first time you buy them a beer at a meeting, you've lost money on them. It's the 85% here, just like a dealership. 85% of your customers are good, solid customers that will do whatever they can do to help you grow your business. Same thing as a manufacturer. 85% of your dealer base is this good, solid group of people that the manufacturers penalize them for the shit that the 15% do.
Absolutely.
And that's the mistake that I make. We don't penalize, we don't put shit up in a dealership that penalizes the 85% of our customers are good, right? You just get rid of the 15% that are bad and make it easy for those customers to come in and have an experience with you. So
absolutely.
I think that's what has to be done.
Well, as we're kind of wrapping this up, I mean, I want to say, so really where we land with this is, the customer is always right is not wrong because the customer does not matter. It's wrong because it's incomplete, right?
Exactly.
We have to go back to that. The customer's always right in matters of taste, but you need to understand your customer. You need to be able to have those conversations. You need to train your employees on how to de-escalate situations, when to bring in someone above them who has the authority to make those decisions. That's the reality of all of this. A lot of this, and you guys probably, everyone gets so tired of us ragging on the owners, but if you have a massive customer issue, it's because you have not either empowered your people, trained your people, or created the culture that your people need.
That is it. And we rag on owners because we love them.
Yes.
Okay. But again, without the culture, without the values, this is what we believe.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the most important thing in building the culture.
Yeah.
This is what we believe. And every decision that you make as an employee, as long as you follow these 3 or 4 core values, you're never going to make a wrong decision.
Absolutely. Okay. So as this, and this is the thing that we started doing every week. So Bob, someone is listening right now, which is, we're always appreciative of, a dealer, a manufacturer, a business owner who has been running by the customer is always right their entire career. One sentence. What do you tell them?
I would say the customer is right. Okay. That's an interesting question. I would say the customer is right. We want their money. Their money's right. Okay. So again, you got to look at it from that standpoint. I say, find out what your customer lifetime value is. And to me, then that solves all the other problems there.
Yeah.
So it's not that your customers are always right, but their money is always right. And what I want to do is understand that there's a percentage of people that I don't want as customers. In the beginning, you got to have them all. But I think, again, as you're maturing as a business and you're not really looking at this is the type of customer I want, that's a fatal flaw that you're doing. And then the other piece, again, is understanding that if I got a customer that their lifetime value is worth $30,000 or $40,000, what the hell do I care if it takes me $500 to take care of them?
Yeah. In the worlds of Gary V, why the fuck do we care?
We
right?
don't.
We don't.
I wasn't going to say that, but Gary does use the F word quite a bit.
Yes, he does.
But he does it in a very a loving and caring way.
Yeah, 100%. That
So he's a super guy.
Whenever I see anything Gary, it goes loving and caring. No, he wants the best.
He wants people to be the best, be successful. And
absolutely.
And what I love about Gary is he's like, quit worrying about what other people think. Do your thing.
We're not in high school anymore.
You're not freaking in high school anymore.
But with that, the reality of it, the businesses that win long-term are not the ones with the happiest customers. They're the ones with the clearest standards that attract the right customers,
right,
and give the wrong ones a reason to go somewhere else. That's true whether you're a dealer, a manufacturer, or anyone in between. With that, we go live here every single week. Make sure that you subscribe to us, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch. Make sure that you're subscribing, and then drop your worst customer story below.
I'd love to see those.
We read every single one. With that, we will catch you guys next week right here on Unplugged Unfiltered. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
Never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words is where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're